Does the daily narrative we create for ourselves personally and professionally align with the lasting impression we intend to leave? What mark do you wish to leave on the world? Let's discuss. Today, we welcome the music and mind of Nashville, Tennessee actress and performer, the beautiful Miss Ashlie Ember, and guest entrepreneur, author, musician, speaker, and coach, Marc Ensign. I'm Amanda Ashlie, and this is episode 79, Legacy. Welcome to Afternoon Cocktail.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Welcome to Afternoon Cocktail, Miss Ashlie Ember. Thank you for joining us. How's it going?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm awesome. I love your hair. Your hair is so badass.
Oh, thank you.
So,
She's really sassy today.
yeah, looking good. So what are you going to perform for us?
I figured that I could do my latest single for you guys, which is called Fight With You. And so it's Fight With You. It's my latest single. I released it at the end of October. It's been doing extremely well. It's got almost just shy of 200,000 streams on Spotify alone. And it's caused a lot of conversation in the country market because it kind of walks a really fine line of pop and country, and which is exactly what I stand for. So I love this song. When I heard this song, I was actually in Europe doing a residency when I was pitched this song, and I heard it and I was just like, man, this song is great. I love the message. And I think the message, it holds pretty true to current times right now because of the pandemic and people being in COVID. A lot of people have been spending a lot more time with each other than they probably have in a really, really long time. And this song is just about, your ride or die. And sometimes you'd rather fight with them instead of being anywhere else in the world. You can be, sitting on cloud nine, everything's easy. But at the end of the day, you'd still rather bicker with them because they're your person and they're your ride or die. So, yeah.
I love it.
Let's just get into it right now. And here we go. Baby, you don't got to worry. Last night our lights got blurry, but I just slept in your jersey, and your lips show me mercy. Broken glass on the floor, boy. Dumped your shirt out the top drawer. Now we laugh, what was that for? You know I love to keep score. Everything could be going right. Yeah, with somebody else, but I would rather fight with you, stay up all night with you. I would rather you slamming doors, shouting curse words, cause even I said I was still what I could choose over anyone but you. I would rather take this mess over there best, cause in the end I would rather fight with you. Ooh, I would rather fight with you, yeah. And be sipping mimosas with someone new by the ocean. Cause even fresh love emotions can't come close to what we got going. Everything could be going right. Yeah, with somebody else, but I would rather fight with you, stay up all night with you. I would rather be slamming doors down in Casper. Cause even now, I don't wish I still what I would choose over anyone but you. I would rather take this mess over there, best. Cause in the end, I would rather fight with you. Ooh, I would rather fight with you. Yeah. Baby, you don't got to worry. I know that I've got to flurry, but I would rather fight with you, stay up all night with you. I would rather be slamming doors down Tesla. Cause even now, I don't want you still what I could choose over anyone but you. I would rather take this mess over there, babe. Cause in the end, I would rather fight with you. I'll stay up all night with you. Ooh, take this mess over there, babe. Cause in the end, I would rather fight with you. Ooh, I would rather fight with you. Yeah.
Beautiful, Ashlie. I love your voice.
Ooh, oh, thank you so much.
You're
It's a bit
welcome.
and not too bad for 10 o'clock in the morning here in Las Vegas.
Oh, I was wondering where you were today. So, I mean, you're originally from Colorado, just outside of
Yes.
Denver, correct?
Yes, I am from a town called Thornton.
Awesome. And then,
Yeah.
and you've been living in Nashville as well?
Yeah, so I've actually kind of been all over the place. I'd say I'm a little bit of a gypsy for a while, just all over. But I bought my first home in Las Vegas in 2019. So this is kind of base, but I also do stay in Nashville a lot when I'm recording, when I'm doing interviews, when we're doing meetings. So I'll actually be back in Nashville actually in a couple weeks because we're gearing up for a brand new single release, which is
Yay.
really, really exciting. So we have lots of stuff to do for that. So I'll be hanging out there a lot coming up here really soon.
So Vegas, so your background, you performed on a cruise ship for many years. Was it many years or just a year? How long?
Yeah, I started my cruise ship journey back in 2015. Actually, it was kind of by accident. I really didn't know about cruise ships. I didn't know it was a thing. I had no idea that they hired performers. I had no idea that they like paid performers. And it was one of those things where I just was in the ensemble actually, like as one of the cast members. They do these full on like Broadway style production shows on board the ships for all the guests. And you do about three different shows and throughout the entire cruise. So I started my journey in that. And then while I was on board, I kept seeing these other solo performers come in. And I was like, yo, who are these people that are coming in? They do one show and then they do absolutely nothing else. I was like, I want that job.
Yeah.
And so, so I did some research. I asked some questions, and didn't get a lot of good support. Everybody was like, "You're a production singer. Nobody will take you seriously. It's so hard to cross over to a headliner. It's a very competitive market." And I was just like, "All right, challenge accepted." And so, within a month of doing my first ship contract, I started putting together my headliner show, which is a Whitney Houston celebration. And
Yes, I love
yes,
it.
oh,
Yes,
thank you.
so
And
cool.
I worked really, really hard, and I didn't give up, even though people told me no, even though people were like, it's so hard for female headliners, to get, representation. And I was like, I don't care. My show's amazing. I'm going to do it. And I was just kept being persistent. And 2.5 years later, it paid off. And I ended up signing with the number one agency in the world. And then from there on out, I was headlining, traveling the world. I've been to over 70 different countries. I was performing for about 100,000 people a year. And it was my show. I, was a one woman show, and I always had a band that backed me up. And I loved it so much because I got to celebrate my icon, which is Whitney. And I also just got to be myself and be, the diva. And, you really learn how to command the stage when you're in a situation like that, because there's nothing else to rely on other than you. That's it. So it was an incredible experience. And I'm so, so, so thankful for it.
Cheers to you, Ashlie. I mean, honestly, that's amazing. I love cruise ships. Like my mother was a part-time travel agent growing up, and throughout my life, and she still does it. And she took me on a lot of cruise ships, and a big part of my love for it came from the shows.
Yeah.
And I'm a piano player, so like the piano bars,
Oh,
like I just always like was like, how cool would it be to work on a cruise ship and do piano bar shows like every night of the week? Like it just looks like a lot of fun. But then there's another side to, like the wait staff, like the people work their butts off, or they're like they have multi job, like a bunch of different jobs on the ship. But
yeah. The cruise ship employees, like being a performer is different. And as a headliner, I literally just fly on, I do my show, and then I leave. And then like I'm a
awesome.
guest. I'm not a crew member. I'm a guest. So I'm hanging out with all the guests in a guest cabin, just, living my best life, sipping margaritas by the pool when I'm not performing. So it's
Sounds
pretty great. But
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really awesome. But the crew members, they do work really hard. When they're on board on a contract, they're on board from anywhere from, I think, like 6 to 9 months is average. And they literally work like 14 hours a day every single
Yeah.
day for 8 to 12 months. They're really, really, really hardworking people. And it just goes to show you that, there's usually about 70 different nationalities that are on board cruise ships.
Hmm.
And somehow we function just fine and we all get along. And, I have friends from all over the world that I never thought I would have. Friends in Russia and Serbia and Montenegro and, these places where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have legit friends here. This is
That's so
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But let's not like downplay what you did, okay? Because yeah, you got that one show a night, but girl, what an undertaking. Like Whitney, for real, like as a one-woman show, I wish I mean, I saw some of your like pieces of your performance on YouTube, but like to be live for that, I wish I could have been present. Um, do you think that's something you're gonna continue in the future?
Not really. I think Whitney and that show will always be a part of my life because, her music just helped me get through a really, really hard time in life. And I just look up to her so much as a performer, as a vocalist, and also, being a Black woman, what she represented for, the Black community was massive. She showed the world that, we can in fact be pop icons. And what she was able to do just with her voice. Because let's keep in mind, Whitney wasn't a songwriter.
Mhm.
She was the voice, but you could argue that her voice is just so amazing that without her voice, the songs in question wouldn't be what
She's an
they are
artist.
today.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And
A total
so
artist.
that's what I really appreciate about her and her live performance. So yes, I think regardless of what I'm doing, even, with my country, performances and like going on tour and stuff, I will always incorporate something of Whitney within the show because it doesn't matter what genre of music you listen to, everybody knows Whitney Houston and how can you not love her? I mean, she's just awesome. So
I'll say Whitney Houston was the first like famous person that died. Like when she passed, I literally cried for like a week.
oh, I was the
Was,
same. I was a
oh
mess.
my gosh. It really like got me because I love Whitney
Yeah,
Houston. Like to me, her
absolutely.
voice is so like so nobody could ever be like her, like I mean,
Absolutely.
she was just so unique in her own right, and
I
what she
100% agree.
did for women, and I don't know, I love her. But yeah, I
I
cried for a week
I
after
agree.
that.
I
Yeah.
did as well. Yeah. And even during the show, my show, like I have this moment where I do this beautiful montage to her. And every time, in tech rehearsal where we, make sure the video and audio and stuff is working, I would just sit there and I just be like, man, this woman's just so talented and so beautiful. And, it's just such a loss, that the world, had, to deal with. And, when you watch her documentary, Whitney, she really wanted to change and she was trying to. So
Yeah,
it's really sad that the industry puts so much pressure on performers where they have to reach to, you know, not so great outlets in order to, maintain, what they're doing. So, if anything, it's a lesson, to a lot of performers to make sure to not
sure.
overwork yourself and to
Take
surround
care of
yourself with,
yourself. Yeah,
yeah, and
self-care.
surround yourself with good people. Yeah.
Ab- Absolutely. So, Ashley, how do we go from Whitney Houston to country music? Like, if she was such an influential figure for you, like, where does country come into the mix?
So as we mentioned, I grew up in Thornton, Colorado, which is definitely at the time, was probably one of the like most non-diverse areas. We were the only Black family, and all of my friends, they listened to country music. So of course, growing up, I listened to what my parents listened to, and they listened to, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the Spinners, and all that kind of soul and Motown, and we loved Michael Jackson in our household. And, but then I started going to school and I started listening to what the other kids listened to. And, they were listening to, Shania Twain and then Faith Hill and, Leanne Rhymes and Garth Brooks and Tim McGraw. And I was like, what's this? And, that was kind of my introductory into country music, was that late 90s, early 2000s sound, when the women really dominated the charts back then. And I just fell in love with it. I also have a musical theater background. So I think it makes sense because country music is very storytelling, and you can connect because it's so literal. And I'm sorry. Did you? Okay, sorry, but my
Yeah.
phone, yeah, my phone messed up. But it's such a literal genre of music that's very similar to musical theater, just presented in a different way. And so I just always connected to it, and it's just always so much fun. But growing up, I just didn't see anybody like me, on the radio charts or in the country music videos. So it's not a genre that I thought that I could actively pursue, that people would take me seriously or accept me within the genre. So I did what any smart singer would do, is I had to adapt and I had to learn how to, be a chameleon and sing multiple genres of music so I could eat. And, off of my talent and not have to work a side job. And don't get me wrong, I've worked lots of side jobs, but I wanted to get to a point where I didn't have to. And so I sang country, I sang rock, I sang R&B, I sang gospel. I mean, musical theater, anything I needed to sing, I just wanted to sing at the end of the day. And the reason why Whitney became such a huge part of my life, even though I was listening to country and all this other stuff, was when I was 11, my dad got really, really sick. And when I was 12, he actually passed away. And so he was the one that told me that I could sing. And he loved Whitney. And I started to listen to her on repeat. And then I just started to belt along with her at the top of my lungs. And she just helped me really get through a hard time because her music is just so positive and just so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. Was
Yeah.
your father a musician?
My father was not, but my grandfather, his dad, he was actually in a couple singing groups, and he actually recorded a single in 2010, just a few years before he passed away. And he traveled all over the U.S. performing. My nana, she's also a performer. That's actually how they met. She was in a girl group. He was in a guys group. And all of my uncles are very musically inclined. So it's really funny because my mom cannot sing at all. Like she's terrible. Like I just turn the radio up in the car and I'm like, you go ahead, mom. And my dad was the same. He couldn't sing at all. But my uncles, they all like, they play piano, they write music, they're worship leaders at their churches, and they're very actively involved in music. And I have two really close cousins. One does spoken word, which is incredible, and the other one is a rapper as well as a pianist. And yeah, so lots of music in my family, but I'm the only one in my immediate family that is musically inclined.
Gotcha. Your family must think you're like the coolest. Like, what do they think of all that you've accomplished?
My family is awesome, and I have to give them a huge shout out because, this year has been very difficult for artists. I was completely booked all the way up until, early 2021. I would only just be getting back home, now. And so, all of us performers lost a huge chunk of income. If we're not performing, we're not getting paid. Of course, if you're smart, you have other, revenue streams and things like that. But everybody knows that artists make their money when they're out performing and when they're on tour. And my family is just so awesome and so supportive that, I reached out to them. I told them what's going on, and all of them pitched in to make sure that I still had a budget, to move forward with this year and to
Oh,
continue to release music and to do music videos and stuff like that. So my family is so, so, so supportive. They're so proud, and they know how hard it is to, have a career in the music industry. And on top of that, having a career in country music, but they stand behind me with what I stand for, which is, adding diversity and, gender and race equality for, everybody, not just in country music, but, just across everywhere in the world.
I was going to ask you that. So, like, as a Black woman in a musical genre that's dominated mostly by white men, how difficult has it been to prove yourself as a country artist?
Um, Sometimes it's been super easy and sometimes it's been really difficult. So, my manager, my producer, they're both, white males, and they love me, and they are in 100 and like a 20% times 1,000, if that's even possible. Like, they are just fully in, and my race has never been an issue. I can't deny the fact that I'm a Black woman, but I don't want that to be the reason why, people listen to my music or why the country industry accepts me. I want them to accept me because, my branding, I take pride in my branding and my social media numbers and my streaming numbers and my music. My music is top notch along with everybody else. And then it just so happens that I'm a Black woman. But unfortunately, things are a bit old school. And not everybody is as welcoming, but I would say overall, everybody has been extremely supportive and is extremely supporting the movement and does realize that there have been severe disadvantages for women of color in the industry. And I'm just excited to be alongside incredible artists like Mickey Guyton and,
Yeah, I love
you
her.
know, yeah, she's so
She's
great. And,
great. Yeah.
Reese Palmer, who, was before Mickey. And, I just recently did a podcast with her that'll be airing soon. And she's just absolutely lovely and so supportive. So I'm just really happy to be now considered a part of the front line of, adding diversity within this incredible genre of music.
Yeah, I love it. I think in some ways, like I'm starting to recognize a little bit more diversity within country music. I mean, Darius Rucker's been doing this for a while, and he's like became like I feel he's like the first Black country artist that I could recall, like that kind of made, put himself on the mark as a country artist coming out of Hootie and the Bluefish. It's like,
Hmm.
what, country?
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he's all over the Ryman Theater. Like he's like got respect, and I love that. And I think Kane Brown's multiracial, right? So
Yep, he is. And you also have Jimmy Allen. And I think what's so special about those guys is that again, they are very talented performers, very talented artists coming out with incredible music that just so happen to be Black. Like, it has nothing to do with race. They just so happen to be a different race, but their music is amazing, and their work ethic and their branding, how they are with their fans, that's why, they're successful. So,
oh
and that's what I
yeah,
love about them. Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. I agree. Today's theme is legacy.
Hmm.
What do you want your life to stand for?
That's a tough question, but I've always done everything with integrity, and I've always led with my heart. And what I stand for right now is so much more than just, trying to be some famous country singer that's going on tour and stuff like this. It stands for inspiration to other little girls who don't have to go through what I went through when I was little, and being told that you're not good enough and you're not pretty enough or you're not smart enough just because of the color of your skin. This stands for hope that everybody, regardless of race or gender, has the belief that they can do what they want to do because somebody has paved the way for them. And that's what I want my legacy to be. It's not just about me, it's about all the future little girls and little boys who want to do incredible things that should never be held back for something so trivial as, the color of their skin. And that's really what I stand for.
I love that. I love that. It's beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. And it's such a powerful message that I think young girls should be hearing right now. No matter what color skin you are, like just to have um, words of inspiration like that to follow, that you could be a woman, you could be successful, you could be anything you put your mind to with,
Absolutely.
some hard work and dedication.
Yep.
You're a beautiful example of that. So you had
Thank you.
mentioned, you're welcome. You had mentioned musical theater, right? So
Yes.
Marc Ensign, who is our second half of the show, he actually played bass in Rent for Mark. How many
Oh,
years?
Oh,
Ashlie, meet Mark.
hi, Mark.
hey, how you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too. I
So,
really enjoyed your interview. We'll get into rent in a second. I'm going to take over for about 30 seconds and tell you that I was in the band for Norwegian Cruise Lines for many years. So I
Oh,
was
my
one of the
goodness.
people that would back somebody like you that would come in and I would work all week and be very jealous of you getting to, travel around and just do one show. So,
Yeah, and that is an extremely hard job, like
yeah.
because we just come in with our charts and we're like, "Hey guys, here you go," and ready, set, go, and then you guys play it practically perfect on the first try. I mean, that's assuming the artist has good charts,
Sure,
to
of
give you
course.
guys to whatever. But I I love the musicians on board, and you got like I know you're not doing it now, but like the musicians on board are just incredible and they're always so amazing.
It was
And
a lot of fun.
we could not do the show without you guys. Yes.
so Mark,
Excellent.
you traveled with Rent, but you also played on Broadway too, right?
Correct. Yeah, I started
Yeah.
off. I started off as a sub on Broadway, and then after playing the show, filling in for about a year, I got offered over the time I played in the first and second national tours, and then also on the 20th anniversary tour,
That's
just
so
as a sub.
cool. And Ashley, what part did you have in the play? Because you performed in
Uh,
Rent as well.
I did. I played a Joanne.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes, I did. And I was a very like sassy, like a very different
No.
Joanne than than like the typical Joanne. It was actually that show, Rent and Avenue Q, to this day are probably my most favorite shows. Like the Rent, there is something about the show Rent,
Yeah.
and Mark, I bet you probably feel the same way about this. There is just something so special about that show and with the ensemble of that show, because we're all in so many scenes together, and just what the show stands for, like just the tightness of the cast that I was in was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And with the exception of Avenue Q, I had never experienced that type of a relationship with a cast. And so not only was the show beautiful, but just, the relationship with my colleagues was beautiful as well.
Well,
Yeah, it
that
was
sure
it
makes
was
your
a great experience
experience.
because it was the right timing too. Where it was an out of left field kind of Broadway show, with the music and the subject matter. And it is I can't tell you how many times I played that show, and yet I could still listen to it like as if it was the first time. It's just one of those
Absolutely. Yeah.
soundtracks that I just I always come back to.
Absolutely. It's so great. And I always bust out into Rent songs just all the time. Like somebody will say something and I'll just be like, take me for what I am. And like, I'll just like bust out and they'll look at me. They'll be like, what? I'll be like, you don't know Rent? Like, how is this possible?
Right.
Don't you ever wish life could really just be like that? That you could just like
Oh my,
sing your feelings out like that and people not
I
think you're a total weirdo?
I'm a horrible
life
singer, so I would have to say no to that, but
I think life should be a musical, like horrible or not. Like just let it out. Yeah.
Definitely would make things more interesting. So, Ashlie,
Absolutely.
you said you're releasing a new single soon, right? Could you tell us more
Yes.
about it and when we could expect it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are so I guess everybody on this show is getting the tea a little early. Um,
Ooh.
but we are announcing it on February 1st, of course, in celebration of Black History Month. And we are releasing the single the very last Friday of the month, which is the 26th. And I am so excited about this single. So, this is going to be my very first single introducing me as a songwriter to the Nashville community.
Yay.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I bet.
So the three singles I've had were pitched to me by incredible songwriters. You know, Almost Love was written by Billy Montana, who's got #1 singles with Tim McGraw, Garth Brooks, Jody Messina. It was also co-written by the beautiful ladies of Runaway June, who are an incredible up-and-coming girl group. They've already been making noise, but they still have lots of noise to make. And then, you know, My Revenge was co-written by Amy Foster, who's David Foster's daughter. And the great thing about that song is David Foster's who produced Whitney Houston and the Bodyguard soundtrack. So what are the odds that I pick a song? And I had no idea that who wrote it. I had no idea. David Foster was actually playing the piano on the demo that I picked when I sang the
Whoa,
song.
that's
I
pretty
know,
cool.
so crazy. And so, you know, what are the odds that I'm singing, you know, a completely different genre of music than Whitney, but somehow I'm still directly connected to her. And that's when I knew I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing. It was just a sign, in my opinion, from the universe. And then Fight With You was written by three incredible writers. It was with Green Hills Publishing, which is a great publishing house in Nashville, and Lo Lynn, who's you know, quite the personality on social media and stuff like that. She's an incredible writer, incredible singer. She was one of the writers on that, so that was fun. But now I get to embark on a journey of releasing all of my own music. So all the singles we'll be releasing this year are songs that I've written all the lyrics and melody myself. And this song, the musical composition is from an incredibly talented composer and producer called Morgan Matthews, who actually just landed a #1 single with Alicia Keys
No
on
way.
just landed
Sweet.
a
I
number
love
one
her.
single with her. Oh, she's incredible on the
Yeah.
US R&B adult Billboard charts. I think the song just recently hit over 200 million streams. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm so excited. So he is my co-writer on that, doing all the music. And then, of course, it was produced by my producer who has literally worked with everybody: Carrie Underwood, Florida Georgia Line, Chase Rice. I mean, everybody. And he's a Grammy and Emmy award-winning producer and mixer and masterer, and he is who produced the song as well. So it's called Those Nights. It drops February 26th, and you guys will be seeing a ton of promo about pre-saving it, all kinds of stuff starting February 1st. So please, please, please follow me on all of my social media outlets so you guys can check out this incredible brand new single that I am just over the moon about.
Yes, make sure you guys follow Ashlie on, she's got an Instagram page, Facebook, her music. Ashlie, everything I've heard on Spotify, I like am in love with. It
Oh, thank
sounds, your
you.
recordings sound great. Your voice is awesome. I definitely will be listening and following. And thank you so much for your time on our show
Oh my
today.
gosh.
It's great to have you.
Absolutely. It's been a
Yeah.
blast. Yeah. And
Good
the
luck
only
to
thing I'll
you.
say, oh, thank you. Thank you. All I want to say to everybody out there, I know my name's on there, but a lot of people misspell my name. You guys just remember my name is spelled different. It's with an IE. So it's ASHLIE, Amber. And that's ashleyamber.com, Ashlie Amber on every single streaming platform you can possibly think of. And then Ashlie Amber Official on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and Ashlie Amber on Twitter and YouTube. So please, please, please follow, like, subscribe, do all the things, download the music, and just thank you again for having me here
Oh,
on
thank
the on
you.
this amazing show. And by the way,
Oh,
I just have to say I love your backdrop,
oh,
and
thank you.
I love the flower in your hair because you're giving
Oh,
me
thank.
like winter vibes meets Hawaii, you know? Like
Yeah, it's a
I
confused setting, but I always
I
rock a
love
flower.
it.
It's my thing.
It's so
Yeah,
great. It's beautiful. And
thank
I've had
you.
a blast. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, it
And
was
Marc,
really
it was nice to meet you.
awesome. Really awesome to
Sorry.
speak with you.
Great to meet you too.
So, Marc, tell us a little bit more about you and welcome to our show. It's such a pleasure to have you as well. Can you share with our audience just a little bit about you, your background, and what it is that you do?
Sure. So, I started off my life as a musician. What we were just talking about, toured around, starting with the cruise ship and Broadway. Made my way into marketing somewhere along the lines. I figured out I was really good at getting in front of the right people in the right way at the right time, and I was really good at making myself stand out. So I started a marketing company, and that kind of took over my life for a while. Did that for about 15 years, then exited that company and started a personal branding agency that specializes in taking big ideas and creating global movements. And it was because I was doing all this, I was marketing for so long, and I lost sight of like this idea of finding the big dream. When I wanted to work on Broadway, that was the big dream, and I got to chase this, this really this thing that left an impact on the world. And now all of a sudden, I lost sight of that. So and I was unfulfilled, and so I left that marketing company, and in order to start this new thing that really I felt would put a big dent in the world. And somewhere along the lines, I wrote a book, and still playing a little music, and here I am.
So, Marc, you're a Berkeley College music grad, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So, so all your marketing skills were basically just self-learned?
And Ashley, I'm sure can attest to this too. I learned on the job because as a musician, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You really have. I mean, you don't. You don't have this choice but to get in front of people, and it's not like you can create this amazing music. I can write this great song. I could be a great bass player. Like I noticed very early on, some of the best players that I went to school with were all working at restaurants, or part-time jobs, or struggling. And so the key for me was like, how do I get in front of all those people? How do I get into this Broadway environment, which was not like a very welcoming thing. Like there was no instruction manual. There was no audition process or call this guy and he'll get you in. It really was a who you know, and more so than anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually a musician in my life outside of Afternoon Cocktail, and I am a full-time musician because of my marketing. Like
Yeah.
marketing and business. I don't have a business degree, but I just wanted to play music all the time. And I didn't have anybody that was gonna like be my manager or do it for me. So I just started, self-educating myself and putting myself out there and using whatever free resources were there, in order to push myself, recognizing the little things that get you attention or that make you look better than maybe even where you're at, a
Right.
website, simple things, just having a website. I mean, what did you, as a marketer, what advice would you give to anybody who's, just starting out?
I think what did the best for me was because just starting out, I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a marketing, but like I didn't know, there was no hiring somebody to help me with this. So I had to do it all myself, and I didn't have any experience with any of the tools or strategies. I really was in a place of having to figure it out on my own. And I think the most important thing that you can do is before you take that first step, look back, figure out like what is it that you want to do, like what is the ultimate goal here, and get clarity. Because without really being clear about what it is that you want your career to look like as a musician or as an artist, or even regardless of what you're doing, it's going to be really hard to get there. So for me, after I did the cruise ship, I'd said, I planted my flag in the sand. I said, I want to work on Broadway. I want to play in one of these 12. Like, I had 12 shows to choose from, and I was going to knock on every single door and figure out, like, because it was so specific about what I wanted, that like I didn't get scattered in this. I'm going to make a living as a musician. So now there's 3,000 things that I could have done to make a living as a musician. Instead, it was, I'm going to work on Broadway. And I was so crystal clear. And so that opened up a lot of doors for what my, exactly what that strategy was going to be. Well, first I got to meet a lot of the people in the band. So I would start going to shows, and I would get there before the band was, so I can meet them, or I'd stick around afterwards, or I'd steal playbills, and I'd start, and I stole a phone book off from the bus station, and I just started cold calling other musicians to find out what I needed to do. I joined the union. I just started doing things to get one step closer to that, to what that goal was. And I had that, and I turned it into a game. I called it, collecting no's. I would just see how many people can tell me no today, with the idea that if enough people told me no, there's going to be somebody that was going to tell me maybe. And like, that's all I needed to take that next step.
I love it. So you actually still run your own firm, Loudmouse, right?
Yes.
Which is a marketing company. I love that you call yourself the big cheese. It's funny, like hearing you speak, I think in a lot of ways, like it is kind of like a mouse trying to get to the cheese. You got to run through these mazes in life in order to find where to get to where your main goal is, right? I felt like that very much with business, and like my evolution in trying to my evolution as a businesswoman. What great lesson has your entrepreneurial evolution brought to your attention?
Um, I think it comes down to, for me, authenticity, and vulnerability. Those were two things that, when I first started, I put up this front of like, I have to pretend like I have this giant agency, and I have to pretend like I really know what I'm talking about all the time. And I have to pretend that I have it all figured out. And you still see it in the internet marketing world, everybody taking pictures of themselves in front of some Ferrari or jet that's parked out on the street that may or may not be theirs. I don't know, but they're putting up this front. And it wasn't until I let my guard down and just said, "Hey, look, there's a lot of stuff here that I'm trying to figure out," and I was vulnerable, and I would post on social media about how sometimes I feel like a fraud, and then like those would be the most popular posts, because then everybody would be like, "Wow, I feel like that too," and we'd and it would spur all these conversations, and people, like, when you let people see who you are, and really who you are, and not try to hide behind some big facade, then it humanizes you, and which ultimately humanizes your brand and your company. And if you're willing to tell me that sometimes you feel like a fraud, or sometimes you just have, you're sometimes you're just winging it, or like whatever it is that most people are afraid to say, then when you do say, "Hey, look, I got this figured out. I know exactly what you need to do, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is how we're going to get you there," they'll believe you, because you told me the hard stuff. You told me the stuff that nobody else would be willing to tell me. So I know that you're being honest, and you're being real. And so that to me was when I made that shift and was just willing to put myself out there, naked and everything. It really helped me build my network and build my company, and allow me to be able to sleep at night, because I get to be me. I don't have to hide behind something that I'm not.
Do you think, in a way, by you putting yourself out there saying that, hey, like I feel like a fraud, you think that sparked a wellness journey for you? Because now, like with where you're at in your life, and you're speaking, and this, it kind of, do you think that was kind of the catalyst that opened up this next chapter for you? And even as an author too.
I think it's actually opening up that new chapter. Like I think I've barely scratched the surface of where this is going to end up, especially with the book just having come out a couple of weeks ago. And that was an exercise of vulnerability as well. Like that was
Mhm.
like a, let me strip down and like, hey everybody, this is who I am and this is what this is what I went through. I mean, like the book starts with me having, one of, three nervous breakdown, midlife crises or crises. And it starts out from a very ugly place and then kind of builds from there, but which is really difficult. It's really difficult for people to know, to know you, just to kind of get a glimpse of, of all that ugly stuff that happened, that's happening in your head, or all those thoughts and all that.
Can you tell us more about your book? So your book is titled Be a Dick. Can you tell us about the inspiration behind it? And
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess you probably weren't expecting that to be the name of the book, to be the name of the book after talking about how vulnerable.
Definitely
And
is a marketing, like, good job. It gets people's
it is,
attention for sure.
the whole thing is a bit of a marketing dream come true. So basically, I was living up in New Jersey at the time, and I had this dream ever since I was a kid that I was going to make this difference. I was going to change the world. The earth was not going to spin the same because I was here. And now all of a sudden I turn 40 and I'm looking around and going like, what difference have I made? I mean, I toured with Broadway. I did all this great stuff. And yet like that just wasn't enough. Like it didn't, like I couldn't point towards anything that just said I made this big change in the world. And so I had a bit of a panic attack over it, and I decided to sell everything I own and move my entire family to Tampa, Florida, because for some reason I guess you can't change the world in New Jersey. I don't know. And so we land in Tampa, sight unseen, never been here before, and just kind of landed in Tampa. And I'm driving my wife crazy because now I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Like this was a really big mistake. We can't even go back because we sold the house and everything else. And so she threw me out of the house to go take a walk with the kids and just kind of walk it off. And I was about 7 or 8 houses down from my house when I ran into this older gentleman who was probably in his late 60s at the time, and that was my neighbor Dick. And Dick was just the most extraordinary person I had met. Like I just met him at the lowest point in my life, and here is this guy that saved me. He was kind and he was generous and he was compassionate, and he was just good to me and my family and my kids. And so he became my mentor over the next couple months, and even to this day, he's still a very close friend and mentor of mine. um, and I just I just kind of followed him around like a puppy dog and learned so much about life and about how to really change the world. Like because in my mindset was that if you're going to change the world, you have to, like, I had friends that built that had built an orphanage in the Dominican Republic. I had another friend that walked from Florida to California to raise money for a cause. I had friends that were, firemen and cops and like doing like these amazing things and saving people's lives, like literally saving people's lives from raising millions of dollars for good causes. And I was a musician and marketing guy. And what I learned from Dick, that it's not these big, colossal, impossible things that change the world. It's these micro acts of good that make the difference. It's instead of just waving to your neighbor as you walk by, really stopping and spending time with them. Instead of giving somebody the, hey, let me know if you need anything, hoping that they don't actually reach out to you. It's being specific and actually helping somebody, not because they asked you, but because you offered and you actually did and jumped in there. So that's really what the book is about. The book is that journey from New Jersey to understanding what each of these acts are and what each of these principles are of what I call being a dick.
Gosh, I love that. I love this story so much. I think it's really cool. Now, did Dick intend to be your mentor, or like does he was he even aware that he was mentoring you in that time and even up until now?
No, he was. I was stalking him for for the first couple of years. No, he was. Every time I saw him walk the dog, I ran outside, whether my dog had to go out or not, and we walked around the block together. And I went out to dinner with him a bunch of times. I tried telling him what like how much he meant to me a couple of times, and I just couldn't get myself to do it. And then one day, over the course of 2 years that this story was kind of happening, I was asked to do a talk in front of a couple thousand people for a big conference, and I did it on this story about being a dick. It was the first time I'd actually shared this with people outside of just my own little circle. And the video came out from that talk, and I didn't even think about it. And he liked it. He liked the video on Facebook, so I shared it. And I
Aw.
was like, "Oh no, I have to talk to him about this." And so we ended up talking about it, and he was very touched by the, like having not known what was going on. He just was very humbled by it, based on what he had told me. And then when the book came out, it was a very similar thing. I didn't tell him I was writing the book. I didn't tell him I was writing the book. Then I just showed up at his house and handed him the book about him. I mean, that's a big deal. Somebody writes a book about you.
What an incredible honor. Like I could not imagine like opening my door and my friend like not knowing. Like my friend hands me a book and says like, "Hey, you inspired me. I wrote this about you."
Yeah.
I think I would partially be a little scared too, you know. But
No. But
but that's
and
amazing.
he was and the interesting thing was, after he read the book, he actually read it a couple of times, he had told me. And he asked me, he said, "I wonder what would happen, where your life would be." And he was half joking but half serious, I think. "Where would your life be if my name wasn't Dick?" And I thought that was a really profound question, because I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, it wouldn't have really changed my life, because for me I mean, I wasn't following him around because of his name. I was following him around because he was I was learning, and I was inspired by him, and everything else. I think what would have changed was, because his name was Dick, it gave me this wrapping to present it to everybody else, this ability to be able to say, "Hey, look," because be a good neighbor, which is basically the premise of the book, is not a very exciting idea. But when you put it into something that's kind of funny or interesting or attention grabbing or a little risque or whatever, it's hard to ignore. And now all of a sudden, it makes being a good neighbor and being kind and being helpful and being humble, it makes it kind of cool, because now you're being a dick, and you're not just being somebody who's kind. You're being and it started to build this community around this idea of these people that are running around just doing these little micro acts of kindness.
Yeah, I think I wonder how many people are even aware of the impact that they, like we all impact each other
Sure.
in our daily lives, and I think I wonder how many of us are running around unaware, like Dick, that has no idea the impact and the value we bring to another person's life. It's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
and I think it's because we discount all those things, all those little things that we do. And when really at the end of the day, it's the little things that make the big difference, that make the biggest difference. Like, if you want to change the world, it does not require that you build a orphanage in a third world country. Now, if you want to do that, that's amazing, but it doesn't require that. You can still make a difference by by making a difference within your family, within your community, within your neighborhood, within the state that you live. You can It's just, and it's just those little things. It's posting something, it's doing something, it's speaking to somebody, it's being kind when you maybe don't want to be, it's or you don't feel it, like and it really, you start to see that all these little things start to add up. I mean, I'm getting all these, every day I get all these stories of people that are making this, that like, I never thought about it, but look what I did, and look what happened to me. And they're recognizing it, and they're patting themselves on the back, and they're sharing their story, or they're thanking somebody in their neighborhood who's been a dick to them in the past, and in a good way, with a capital D, not a lowercase d. And it's just amazing to see that, because I think people are starting to see the impact that they really do make.
Yeah, I hope if anything that, this coronavirus, like all this, the impact that this has had, on how we look at one another, like hopefully with a little bit more compassion. I know things are crazy in the world right now, but we're all going through something. This show is really an example of that. And these themes are, every theme that I bring to this show is because I think it's really important for us to acknowledge the human factor in all of this, and the impact that we could have on one another. And when you spread that positivity and that kindness, it could be the smallest act of kindness that really could change somebody's day and their life. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Mark, you're an entrepreneur who, in your own words, helps people create a legacy that impacts hundreds of millions of people. Why do you believe it's important to identify what you'd like your legacy to be?
Because if I think, well, there's two parts to that question. There's the like I think there's the, why is it important for you to define it? And I
Mm,
think that it's important for you to define it because if you don't define it, somebody else will, and you may not like how they define what your legacy is. And then there's the question of whether you should even focus on having a legacy, and if not, if you don't, if you don't think about what your legacy should be, really, what's the point of all this? And your legacy may just be to be a good person that raises great kids, or like it doesn't have to be this astronomical thing, but to know that, like, hey, this is what I want to be known for, because there's going to come a time where you're not going to be on this planet any longer. And so you may not be, making the big dents like Steve Jobs, like at a global level, but you can still make a difference. This earth can spin a little differently because you were here, and it's just a matter of giving that some thought and figuring out, like, what I really want to be known for.
yeah, absolutely. I was with my friends last night. It was my good friend Travis, Travis Shouty. It's his birthday. We celebrated his birthday early, and it was just me, him, his sister, and a family friend. And they were talking, they lost their mother years ago, just probably 2 years before I came into their life. And I always have known like how much of an impact their mother had on them, and they're very vocal about how much they miss her. And I'm just sitting at Kirsten's house, and I'm looking at, like, she has all these cutesy decorations, and just how she was so hospitable. And I had mentioned, I had made a comment regarding that, and she was like, my mother did all these things. It's that piece of her that she took from her mother, and that
Mm.
preserves her mother's memory. The reason why I do all these things is because it was just so, she so fondly reflects on her mother doing those things for her as a child. And it's really sweet. And she was just, her and Travis were both talking about, we can't disagree. I mean, we can't agree more on the fact that our mother was the best mother ever, And I think it sounds like their mother knew that, but you don't realize up until like somebody's gone sometimes, like their legacy, it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be astronomical. It could be just the fact that my mother was the best mother ever, and she did everything for me, like her
Yeah.
life, like the impact we have on each other. So your book, and everything we're talking about, again, it's incredible to me how impressionable our words and actions can unknowingly be. What impact do you wish to leave on those lives that you touch?
Um, I want to be known as somebody who brings people together, who brings a lot of people together, and for good reason, good purpose. And so when like the idea of writing the book was to create a community, and the idea of doing something good, or inspiring somebody else to do something good, is to make a new friend, and so I want to be known as that kind of connector, or that kind of that person that encourages and inspires community.
I love it. Awesome, Mark. So what's next for you? What 2021 goals do you wish to fulfill?
So 2021 is really going to be a lot about the book. It's also, I mean, my agency will still continue to grow and be strong, and we do a lot of work around personal branding. So I have that. We also have a personal branding course that's been out for a long time, and then just making that shift to how to taking those ideas and creating continuing to create those kind of global movements, those things that people talk about, and the book is really going to be a shining example of that in 2021.
Amazing, Mark. Thank you so much for, sharing your work with us. And can you tell our audience where they could be directed to order and be a dick?
Sure. Yeah, if you go to the website iwanttobeadick.com, it's that's the best place to, from there you can find we're starting to share a lot of stories and a lot of pictures of people, either sharing the book or sharing somebody that they know, as well as links to all the different places that you can buy the book. And or if you want to check out my personal site, it's marcensign.com, and it's marcensign.com.
Amazing, Mark. Thank you so much. And I definitely plan on picking up that book. I'm really
Thank
interested
you.
to read it. Thank you for your inspirational words and for being a guest on our show. I appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it.
So I'm going to just leave you off with some closing thoughts. 2 weeks before Christmas, I had received a heartbreaking phone call from my drummer and long term friend Joe that his mother had passed. My family and I attended the funeral in support. Sniffles and soft conversation, floral arrangements, and picture collages colored the room as all remembered and reminisced of the type of woman she was and the beautiful life that she left behind. Rose was 84. Old, young, unexpected, sudden, or tragic, I've witnessed loss in all these fashions to find myself wondering the same thing. Would these people be surprised to know how many lives they've impacted and the legacy they left behind? We all know that life continues long after we're gone, but how often do we really consider the impact of our daily actions in the present? A legacy develops from a life dedicated to self reflection. When we are more aware of our intentions, we carry each day with a greater purpose. The energy we bring, the lessons we teach, the kindness we pay forward, how we choose to lead and inspire, the causes we believe in, the truth we stand for, the drive and a passion we exude. That is legacy. Serve your time on this planet with the betterment of future generations in mind. We all are capable of making a positive impact on the lives of those around us. Whether your legacy be modest or so special that the universe is unalterably changed, may it reveal a truthful and value driven body of living. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, thank you to Marc Ensign and Ashlie Amber for their time and for being amazing guests on our show today. Afternoon Cocktail is now available on all podcasting networks, so make sure you catch up on all 78 episodes of Inspiration. And we will be back here this Wednesday. Huge thank you to Beau Production, shout out to James Farley of Northwestern Mutual and Maiden Voyage Studios in Fairport. Thank you to our show sponsors, Rochester Woman Online, Bridgett Hoag of Empire Realty, Blades Events and Catering, and to Chris Sirianni at IT Insights. We will see you on Hump Day. Have a great start to your week. Thank you.